Cam Rising is returning against Arizona State. How will that impact tonight's matchup in Tempe? That's what we're discussing on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, and we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments, as well as on social media. And if you guys, this is your first time, make sure you check us out at Locked On Utes on X. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time, Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined by Utah beat reporter Michelle Bodkin. And Michelle, this is one of those news breaking moments where we flushed everything else we had to make room for the report that Cam Rising is returning. This comes from Brant McMurphy, who's the college football insider at Action Network. Cam Rising will start Friday at Arizona State. Sources tell Action Network. Rising hasn't played since September 7th, and it did talk about the requiring of having stitches on his hands. There is part of me that is still a little nervous just because of what we've been through. Brant McMurphy has broken a lot of stories, but he also had the report a few weeks ago after Dorian Singer said Cam Rising will play that this is what he tweeted on September 16th ahead of the Oklahoma State game. Last week, sources told Action Network Rising would return versus Oklahoma State. Rising injured his ring finger, and so same thing again. So how I do believe Cam's going to play. I think McMurphy is really putting a stamp on this, saying he is going to play. I believe it. I think, like us, he fell for the trap last time of everything with Dorian Singer coming out and saying it. It sounded like Cam was on track to play, and there was something that happened pre-game, clearly, since everyone, like all the Utah beat reporters, obviously, too, we saw several tweets, like Cam was going to play. Dorian said he was going to play. It seems like he was caught up in that last time. I understand. I think fans will feel the same way, being nervous, and maybe you won't even believe it till he's out there. But with how emphatic and strong in the reporting McMurphy's being, I got to believe that Cam is actually going to return. And this is massive news for this Utah football program, Michelle.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to kind of give fans a timeline of what's been going on this past week, obviously there was a moment of panic on Monday during Witt's press conference because he was asked point blank, who or what are you waiting for in order for Cam to get the go ahead to play? And he said the medical staff. Now, I think fans took that as Cam didn't have any clearance whatsoever from the medical staff. And obviously that's not true because we've been watching him warm up. We have watched him practice a little bit or seen him coming off the field at practice, and players are, indicating that he was at practice and all that kind of stuff. So you have to have some kind of clearance there in order for that. But he also went on to talk about they follow recommendations. So I think that's where the hang up kind of is that, okay, you've been cleared to continue to try to get onto the field, but before you actually play a game, these are a few things we feel like you need to make sure are okay and you're feeling okay about before you actually take the snaps. And I think that's where the hang up was. I don't think it was Witt saying that he hadn't been cleared and all that kind of stuff. It was more of the recommendations that they were given for him hadn't been checked off yet. So there was that piece of it. And then Tuesday all of a sudden rolls around and we're sitting at practice doing interviews. Cam comes off the field late. We all watch him do this. We're kind of able to watch him throw the ball, and he seems to look pretty good doing that. Now, obviously, we also watched him practice a little bit last year, stay late and some of that kind of stuff. So doesn't necessarily mean anything. But then Whittingham follows it up on his coach's show saying that Cam had a really great day of practice. And they're seeing some encouraging things that are leading them to believe that he might be ready to go this week. A couple days later on Thursday, I get a notification from someone close to the program that they felt very confident that Cam was most likely going to be ready to play this week. And so I feel pretty confident that Brett McMurphy's correct on this. It just feels like it's been trending that way all week rather than kind of the weird, it maybe feels like it, but then it gets really dead quiet. It just feels like the rumblings have steadily kind of grown as the week has gone on, whereas it felt like there was a little like, yay, maybe, and then it got quiet in the middle of the week, and then you're kind of sitting and watching warm-ups and whatnot and going, well, I don't know, like it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like so I think this time it is more accurate. We'll see though. I'm still very much of the camp, I'm not officially posting anything or saying anything until I see him out on the field. I think that's just the safe way to roll, but I do think it's looking positive, and I think fans should be excited about that.
I appreciate you sharing your insight on that, especially as you said, the fact that you've also been hearing similar things from people you trust, I think makes us feel better, because now you have someone on the national scene of Brett McMurphy and then someone who's connected with you as well. So I think we should all feel better seeing that. And this has been such a frustrating just process. I think Kyle Whittingham could have absolutely handled it better. It's been tough because you look back at what happened against Oklahoma State, right? We were told that Cam was, going to be, it was game time decision, all the things like that. And then after the game, Kyle even said, we thought Isaac gave us the best chance to win. And not as much talking about he talked about some of the stuff with Cam's hand, not throwing the zip on it, but making it seem like he was good to play. And then earlier this week, it's the clearance thing, which you kind of provided the context on. And that's where I understand it's hard for when you are running a football program to keep everything you say straight in front of a microphone like that. So that's why I want to extend some grace, but this has been a frustrating process, and I'm glad it's behind us. And now I'm glad that we can focus on the game. And I think when you're talking about the game, Michelle, I am expecting some rust on Cam Rising. I'm not expecting him to come out there and just look like 22 Cam Rising and light everything up. I think this Utah offense is going to be good. I think he's going to be effective. I still think he's going to have moments where I'll be like, oh, he missed a throw here, missed a throw there. But I do think overall they wouldn't put Cam out there unless he's ready. I'm expecting a strong performance from Cam Rising. I'm just not expecting him to take the field. And the last time we saw him start, not against Baylor, but against Southern Utah, he had the five touchdown passes like that to jump up in competition. So I think there's going to be an adjustment period for Cam, but I do expect him to play well and be effective. And this Utah offense is unquestionably better with him at the helm than it is with true freshman Isaac Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unrealistic to expect a guy that's, missed a couple of weeks of playing to come in and act like nothing happened or he hasn't missed any time. Would it be as bad if, say, the roles were reversed and it was Isaac Wilson who's still kind of learning the game and getting his feet under him? Yes, it would. Being a 7-year guy that's seen everything, done everything, makes a big bit of difference. And while I think there are going to be instances where, it's not perfect from Cam, I think he's in a place where he can kind of overcome a lot of that. And there's a lot of good people around him to kind of help overcome that as well. And we've seen it, like this team, I think, is just more confident when Cam is under center, and for good reason. Again, he's your captain. He's your leader of the leaders. He's someone that everyone just responds to really, really well. And that's not to say that Isaac won't get there. Like he'll get there, but he's still learning things. And so to expect him to come in and look the same as.
Hey, we love dogs on this podcast. You are good to keep rolling.
Yeah, see, I'm the only one in the house. So they want to stay very close to me for that reason. Otherwise, I would have locked them out. But it's just unrealistic to expect a freshman to, I think, have the team respond to a freshman the same way that they would a 7th-year senior that has earned that respect. Isaac's still in the place of needing to earn that respect. And it's, again, it's not that he's not doing things well. It's just, it's a process. Like with anything, we've all been there, right? We've all started a new job and it takes you a minute to work your way up to the top. So it's just a process, and everybody needs to be patient with Isaac, but Cam, I think, absolutely is someone that gives them the best opportunity to win, regardless of how rusty he may or may not be.
Cam Rising is back. That's the biggest takeaway. And now we can talk about how it relates to the matchup that Arizona State's defense prevents. This is a much improved Arizona State team. We talk about it all week. Utah fans do not expect 55-3. Kenny Dillingham has done a great job. This is going to be a fun one down in Tempe. We're going to break down what we expect from Cam, the other individual players on offense, as well as on defense as they prepare to take on the Sun Devils. We'll dive into all of that in one moment. But first, I want to talk with you all about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, as we are brought to our friends at Zybotics. Zybotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by a PhD scientist to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, you need to get it covered. It gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough night. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zybotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel best tomorrow. Here's how you use it. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For the best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Then enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to go. If you want to try Zybotics, you can go to zybotics.com/lockedoncollege. It's all caps, no spaces, Locked On College. To learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. Zybotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zybotics.com/lockedoncollege and use that code lockedoncollege at checkout for 15% off. You can head over and get some Zybotic today. Also want to tell you all about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. And speaking of our game, this line has been all over the place. Earlier today, it dropped all the way down to 3.5, I believe. It's back up to 6.5 in favor of Utah. And of course, I love Utah. I loved Utah before. Now that they got Bad Moon Rising back, I'm definitely riding with the Utes, winning by more than 6.5. So by a touchdown. However you're feeling this game or any games, whether it's the MLB playoffs, all the other college football games, the NFL, make sure you head over to FanDuel and get in on the action today. All right, Michelle, we talked a little bit about how we expect some rust from Cam Rising. But this is an Arizona State defense. While they are ranked 31st, they have gone 3 games in a row now where they have given up 28 points, over 28 points in each of them against Texas State, which they won, Texas Tech, which they lost, and they did just beat Kansas. They are also a team that has given up over 200 yards passing in each of those games. I do expect Cam to have over 200 yards passing this game. I think he's going to have 2 passing touchdowns as well. I think he's going to do a good job getting his guys involved. And you know who also I expect to have a massive game here is Brant Kuithe. I haven't spoken to Brant Kuithe. Michelle, you can maybe provide more context on this, but I got to believe with the competitor that Brant is, he's really excited to get back on the field where last time he did suffer that injury in 2022 and show the progress he's made. The amount that we saw him a couple weeks ago against Southern Utah, the performance he's had in all year, he's been the Brant Kuithe that we know and love. And I think this is an important moment. I got to imagine for him personally to be able to get back on that field in which it happened and just show the world like, hey, this happened here, but this is what I've become and transformed myself and gotten back to this level. So really fired up for him. I also think Dolan Bentley is going to get in the end zone. I think he's a guy who's been working hard blocking for this Utah team. I expect Utah to do a little bit of action in the end zone where he's going to fake like he's blocking and go out for a pass. You see that so option with the play action game, and that's something I expect to be effective. And of course, Dorian Singer will go over 50 yards receiving too. I do think him and Cam are going to connect on a big pass. I would love if it was a big touchdown pass. And to put a ball on the offense, I do think Micah Bernard is 100 yards rushing here. Arizona State's defense has given up over 130 rushing yards in 3 straight games. Micah's going to get the lion's share of the carry. I'm loving the way this Utah offensive line is playing, and I do think they're paving way for a big ground game for Micah, who I do think is going to have a rushing touchdown this one as well. And I'll go with Mike Mitchell to also crack his way into the end zone, even though it could be Jalen Glover. We heard he was going to see more snaps. So we'll see what that looks like. But even though this Arizona State defense does some nice things, Michelle, I have a lot of confidence in Utah's offense, particularly with Cam Rising back.
I've been on record. I really admire the work that Kenny Dillingham's done at Arizona State. Like, that team has been an absolute disaster for way too long, and for no good reason. I mean, that's a place that should be rocking and rolling most of the time, and poor decisions, poor people in places of power that don't belong having power has really kind of wreaked havoc on that program. But I think Dillingham has come in, I mean, really kind of from the jump. I mean, yes, okay, like four, and I forget how much I forget what the record was. The record was still rough, but it was the way that they were playing. I watched enough of those games last season. They just were playing with a swagger and a confidence, and like they were bought into, what Coach Dillingham was telling them. And I think that's really tough to do year one, especially when you don't necessarily have your own guys in place. Even you kind of are taking over guys from another regime. So I think that speaks very highly to what he's done. And obviously we've seen that carry over this year. And I think they're going to get a few more wins than they did the year before. How many more wins? I'm not entirely sure. I don't think Utah is going to be one of them. I think, to your point, this offense, especially under Cam Rising, it's just going to be a little much to stop. But this offense also has not shown that. I just don't think they've shown as well as what we've expected as well. So, is it possible that they get stopped and stuffed, and it's the same story, different week, different team, and Arizona State has, a key signature win? Sure. Anything's possible. We just saw that against Arizona 2 weeks ago. So it's a matter of, though, I've never seen a Utah team let a loss from the week before, 2 weeks before, hang over and carry over to another week. Most of the time. That's just such a rare thing for this program. Usually they get mad and they take it out on the next opponent, and that's kind of what I'm expecting in this game. And I think you mentioned a lot of key players that could have big games. I think Caleb Lohner's another guy that potentially could do something absolutely crazy and insane, just because he got mauled a couple of times the week before. I can't imagine he's terribly happy about that. And same with Dorian Singer. Dorian Singer got kind of slapped around and pushed around, and there probably maybe should have been a flag or two there, but I can see him being a guy that, takes that and it's fuel and ends up having a big game. So that's kind of what I'm expecting from these guys.
I agree. I think it's a Utah team that, I love the point you made about this team sitting on a loss. They just don't. This is not a team that lets one game beat them twice. That does not happen under Kyle Whittingham. And all of the things that happened against Arizona are so easily correctable to me. Things in the run defense, guys just running too far upfield, linebackers in the wrong gaps, offensively stalling in the red zone. That's better play calling. And of course, just Cam Rising fixes a lot of that. If Cam had played against Arizona, I do not believe Utah would have lost that game. Noah Fafita and Tectoro McMillan are really good. We still only held them to 23 points. So, we're going to talk about the defense here in a moment, but that was still a good overall performance, I thought, by the Utah defense, even if for stretches, it's like, why is the run defense lacking here? Noah Fafita just getting open and making and scrambling around and buying time was also part of it. But either way, I do think some of the reports of the Utah's defense exaggeration were greatly overestimated, but I'm excited for them to have a bounce back. And I want to talk about the defense as well as just talk about why I do think that tonight's game in Tempe is such a key one for Utah against Arizona State. We'll dive into all that in one moment. But first, I want to talk with you all about our friends at Robinhood. Robinhood is here for you. With Robinhood, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. This is Robinhood Gold, and Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the higher society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up today at robinhood.com/gold. Terms do apply. For product specific disclosure, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold today. All right, Michelle, shifting over to the defensive side of the ball for this Utah team. This is a Utah defense that I think is fired up to come back. And I do think they're going to play better against Arizona State, but I also think this Arizona State team is going to have success moving the ball because I just think there are talented players on this offense too. Last week, I look at the run defense and I was just like, wow, that was just mistakes. This week, I think we'll look at it like Scadaboo's a good back. And I think he's going to pop a couple runs in this game. I think he's going to make some plays. I think Sam Levitt, although he's not the greatest thrower downfield, and I do think he's going to have some interceptions in this game, I think that this is an Arizona State team that if you do bite too much on the run, they can hit you with a deep pass or two. And Levitt's dual threat abilities are obviously a massive challenge this team is going to have to overcome. So I do think Arizona State will move the ball, but overall, I think this Utah defense is going to come up big when they are needed. I think you're looking at guys like the pass rush. I think they're going to be able to. Levitt is elusive, but I just think Utah's going to be stronger with their rushes. I think you're going to see a Lander Barton come on in there and get a sack on a blitz. Lander's a guy I expect to have a big game. Lander's been really good this year, but a lot of people coming into the year were talking about him as a first-round overall linebacker, like a guy who's going to be drafted in the first round of the NFL. And that's not what it ended up being, right? So then you look and you see for this Utah defense, I also expect Connor O'Toole and not Connor O'Toole, sorry. We have no idea if Connor O'Toole is going to play still. Van Fillinger, as well as I look at Logan Fano as getting home. And for interceptions, I'm going to go with Lander Barton to get one against Levitt. And I also think there's a really good shot that we see Smith Snowden come away with one. Arizona State will move the ball, but I think when Utah needs to get stops, especially in the second half, I think Arizona State's going to put 14 on the board in the first half. They'll have 2 touchdown drives, but I do not think they'll have as much success in the second half. And this is not bad Utah defense. Once again, I just think this Arizona State offense and this team in general is much improved.
Certainly. I mean, they have pieces in place, and Cameron Scadaboo, I think, is the biggest part of that. He was really great last year. He's showing really well again this year. So to think that he won't get his here and there is a little crazy. But, Utah, I think, will be able to manage it. And again, that's not to say they'll be perfect, but I don't think you will see quite what you saw against Arizona. The previous game, I think that didn't sit well with them. And yes, like we're all sitting here going, well, was it really that bad? No, but by their standard, by what they expect out of themselves, it was. It absolutely was. And so I just don't foresee those guys allowing that to happen again. I think Lander, as you mentioned, has been fine. But I think, it's kind of time for him to step up and take that next step. And I know it's been a little bit harder because Karene Reed's duties have fallen onto him, and that's not typically what he's been doing in the past. But that's just what leaders do. And I do think Lander is absolutely a leader out there on the field for him. I expect the defensive ends to take better angles. It was wild watching the other week where it's like, oh, they got him. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait, what are you doing? And that, of course, when your front seven's not working very well, it kind of negates anything your backfield can possibly accomplish or do. They're just so simpatico, and they need each other in order to be good. And if the first and second lines of defense aren't doing their job, it's almost impossible to ask your defensive backs to do anything because so much of what they do is dictated upon what happens up front. So I expect all of that to be cleaned up. I think you're right. I think there is a possibility for some interceptions in this game. Maybe finally that pick six to keep the streak alive. We keep talking about the streak, man. But I want to see these guys just do a better job of staying assignment sound. I think that was the biggest problem the week before, and hopefully that has been resolved. The guys have all kind of said that it has been, but until you see it out on the field, kind of like until we see Cam Rising out on the field, hard to believe it.
Your dogs have done a fantastic job of staying assignment sound. Always ready to defend your house, by the way. So I commend you for that.
That was nice. Well done.
Thank you. But I agree with you. I do think I'm excited to see what this Utah defense is going to do. I'm excited to see what this Utah team is going to do. If you look at how the schedule breaks for Utah, you get bye week, Arizona State here tonight this Friday, then TCU and Houston. This is the toughest team Utah will play in that stretch. The last 4 games of Utah's season are going to be incredibly tough. BYU's been really good. Iowa State is one of the best teams in this conference too. I look at a team like UCF that's still a cross-country road game, and Shedeur Sanders may be the best quarterback in America. So those are tough games. This stretch is not as tough for Utah, but of these 3 games, this is the toughest. Utah's got to go in there. Well, they got to win every game, but this one is the one where I'm like, okay, you got to be at your best here tonight. And even though I think Cam Rising shows some rust, I expect this Utah team to be on their game. I do think Utah comes in. Arizona State does some nice things. Cam Rising's a little better. I'm going to go Utah 34-24. Michelle, if you want to offer up a prediction, or love to hear just a key or something you're excited to see most about this game when it gets underway this evening.
I mean, I think the biggest thing I'm excited for is to see. We think we're pretty sure. Fingers crossed. No pun intended. Like. That we see Cam Rising out on the field, because it's been a long time, and it's been a while since we've seen him play an entire game, and I think this is a case of he probably plays the entire game. Maybe if they build up enough of a lead, you'll see Isaac in cleanup duty in like the 4th quarter or something like that, but I don't think it's going to be a half and half type of game like the first 2 games that we've seen Rising in, first and only 2 half games that we've seen Rising in. So I'm so looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this offense actually operates under a full game with Cam Rising, even if Cam is a little rusty, right? I think it has so much potential, but that potential has not been untapped yet. And I think that maybe happens tonight in Tempe. I'm trying to remember what my score prediction was from the other show I did. I think it was something like 30.
Yes, we will not fact check you.
17, something like that. 35-17, somewhere in there. Again, I think this Arizona State team is capable of getting theirs. I just don't think it will be enough to tip the scales in their favor.
35-17, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. And guess what, Utah fans? You got to love the news that Cam Rising is back. We expect Cam Rising to play. We'll all be a little nervous till we actually see him out there, but can't wait to see this game and get it underway in Tempe. Michelle, thank you for joining me. If people want to consume more of your work and see more of what you have going on, where do they need to head over to?
You can read all my stories on utezone.com. And then, of course, you can follow along for just social media stuff on X, Threads, and Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is obviously just my name, Michelle Bodkin, and the rest of it's all at Bodkin is a Boss.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. Enjoy the game. We'll be reacting to it after. Have a show up on Saturday. Cam Rising is back more than likely, and Utah football is set to face off against Arizona State. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you tomorrow.